Hello, welcome back to another weekly tutorial session on all things GarageBand. This is GarageBand Gary. I will be your host. Today we are talking about bass, what the best way to record bass is. We're going to go over a few methods of how to do it at home in your bedroom, or if you're in a studio, we'll talk about those methods too. Really a combination of a lot of different tidbits combining in what I believe to be the best way to record bass guitar. Alright, without further ado, we'll get right into it. First, we're going to talk about the old classic, mic and an amp. I prepared two different takes of the same bass part, one recorded direct in, and one take recorded mic'd through an amp. The way I believe you should be recording bass guitar, if you're micing an amp, is to at least use two microphones. There's a whole bunch of bozos out there saying, you could use 15 mics on a bass guitar amp. I'm sure you could. I'm sure it would sound cool, but two is enough. This will get you a solid bass performance that you will be able to mix to your liking. There's two mics being used on this bass take. One is an RE20, which is a good low-end response microphone, decently affordable too. And the other is a Rode large diaphragm condenser mic. Really, any large diaphragm condenser you have will do. The nicer the better, obviously. But the point of these two mics is really just to complement each other. Now, there's a few things you need to do when you're setting up to record bass mic through an amp. And that is mic placement to start. You want to have these two microphones pretty much right next to each other, like arm in arm. If they were sitting on a bench, being romantic, they'd have their arms tucked right next to each other, side to side, right pointed at the amp. And I'd say get it as close as you can to that amp. That might not be possible if you're playing pretty loud, but, you don't need to play too loud. But 4 inches will be a fine area. If you get it closer, even better. But yeah, the difference between having these two mics right next to each other at the same distance is you won't have any phasing issues, so they'll mix perfectly. But also, these two different types of mics complement each other. The large diaphragm condenser gets a wider, warmer sound, and the RE20 gets a sort of boomy, controlled boom. The bass end is is captured well through the RE20. And together they sound pretty good. Alright, let's give it a listen. So this is them together. These are the one take. Alright, I'll give you a little taste of each of them individually. Here's the RE20 first. And here is the large diaphragm condenser. There you go. So yeah, you can hear the difference in the two tones and colors that they each provide, and together they do mix pretty well. I'd say this is the most regularly used process for recording a bass guitar. It's the mic and amp. A lot of people think it's the only way to do it. You get a real live performance that way that you can't really mimic with DI bass, people say. But, in my opinion, you kinda can. I'm gonna give you a listen to the same bass part, but this is DI, recorded directly into an interface. So there you go. It sounds pretty good to me. There's a lot of processing done on this, as you can see down here. And I made a separate video on how to process DI bass signals. Gives you a list of presets you can copy and just plug in right into GarageBand. But for now, this video is more of a comparison, pros and cons, which one you should decide to do. In my opinion, I agree. if you can get a live performance, mic at live amp, it will probably be better. But not everybody has that luxury to be able to play that loud, especially if you're playing in your bedroom in your little apartment. Uh, you can't really get a boom and bass going on. So DI might be the right way to go for you. And I'm just gonna here to say that to give you a little confidence in that decision, a lot of great albums have been made with DI bass. Almost every single studio producer prefers to work with a combination of live mic amp takes and DI bass. The DI bass just kind of fills in the gaps, you know. It's a real, true, raw bass signal, and it hits hard. So there are ways you can make this sound really lively. And I gave a full video. The link, the description, the video will be posted after this if you want to learn how to do that. But in my opinion, doing DI bass will be fine. Whatever. It'll sound good. It'll sound like a bass should. Not gonna sound quite as awesome as a mic amp, but at the same time, a mic amp leaves lots of room for error. The player could have a bad take, and you can't really do anything to fix it. A lot of your mixing is done pre-recording, just by the settings on your amp or preamp or whatever you're using to play, which can be also a pro to many people in that you could be playing and recording the exact tone you would play for a live show, perhaps, or just practicing the way you want your bass to sound in a room will be authentically captured, as opposed to where you'd be trying to work to recreate that with the DI signal, and all the processing done on a DI bass signal. Yeah, so there you go. It's really a matter of what you're able to do, but I'm here to give you the Gary confidence that DI bass will sound pretty fucking good. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. I hope this helps you make your decision of whether you want to record through a live amp or work with a DI bass signal. Alright, this is GarageBand Gary. Thanks for tuning in.